The massive space station called Velthar Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was a place where different alien species came to solve their problems through fighting instead of war. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth, with metal walls that gleamed under artificial lights. Dae-hyun stepped off the transport ship and looked around with quiet eyes. He was a human, only 32 years old, but his hands were covered in calluses from years of training. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy, and carried a small bag over his shoulder. Unlike the other humans in the diplomatic group, he didn't look nervous or excited. He just looked calm. He was a martial artist. For most of his life, he had studied old fighting styles from Earth, especially the sword techniques from Korea and other Asian countries. While other people thought these old ways were useless in a galaxy full of laser guns and plasma weapons, Dae-hyun believed differently. He knew that the principles behind the techniques mattered more than the weapons themselves. Ambassador Hai-wan led the human group through the station's corridors. She was older than Dae-hyun, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent months preparing for this diplomatic mission. Earth was new to the galactic community, and every interaction mattered. The Velkhari Empire controlled most of this sector of space. They were tall creatures standing over 8 feet high, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. They had 4 arms instead of 2, and their eyes looked like insect eyes, made of thousands of tiny lenses. They were strong, very strong, and they ruled through combat prowess. As the human group walked through the station, other aliens stared at them. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. Humans were small compared to most species here. They had no natural armor, no extra arms, no built-in weapons. To many aliens, humans looked weak. The group arrived at a large arena. The ceiling stretched high above, and energy shields glowed along the walls to protect spectators. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, representing dozens of different species. In the center was a fighting floor, smooth and empty, waiting for combat. Commander Kreltos of the Velkhari Empire stood to greet them. He was massive, even for his species, with scars on his shell that told stories of many battles. His 4 arms moved with practiced grace as he gestured for the humans to sit in a special viewing area. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Kreltos said through a translator device. His real voice sounded like clicking and scraping, but the translator made it into words they could understand. "We have prepared a cultural exchange for you. Combat is how the Velkhari understand worth and honor. We thought you might enjoy a demonstration." Ambassador Hai-wan smiled politely, though Dae-hyun could see the tension in her shoulders. "That's very kind of you, Commander. We're honored to witness your traditions." Kreltos's eyes gleamed. "Actually, Ambassador, we thought perhaps one of your people might participate. Just a simple demonstration, nothing serious. It would help us understand human capabilities better." The other humans in the group shifted uncomfortably. They were diplomats, scientists, traders. None of them were fighters. Hai-wan opened her mouth to decline politely, but Dae-hyun spoke first. "I'll do it," he said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Hai-wan's eyes widened. "Dae-hyun, you don't have to—" "It's fine," Dae-hyun interrupted gently. "This is why I came, to show what humans can do." Kreltos looked pleased, maybe too pleased. "Excellent. How brave. Come, human, choose your weapon." Dae-hyun followed the commander down to the arena floor. The crowd grew quiet, watching with interest. A human was going to fight. This would be entertaining. They stopped at a weapon rack. Dae-hyun's eyes scanned the options. There were plasma swords that glowed with deadly energy, neural whips that could stun with a touch, hard-light shields and molecular blades, weapons that could cut through steel like paper. And there, almost hidden in the back, was a wooden sword. It was crude, roughly carved from some local wood. The balance was wrong. The edge was dull. It looked like a child's toy compared to the other weapons. Kreltos's advisor, a smaller Velkhari, spoke up. "Perhaps the human would prefer the traditional path. That wooden blade represents the way of ancient warriors. Very honorable, very respected in our culture." Dae-hyun picked up the wooden sword. It felt light, too light. The grain of the wood was uneven. Any master back on Earth would have rejected this as poorly made. He could see some aliens in the crowd starting to laugh. But Dae-hyun understood something they didn't. He had trained with wooden swords his entire life. On Earth, masters used bakken, wooden practice swords, to teach students proper form. The greatest swordsman in human history had trained with wood before ever touching steel. A wooden sword in the hands of a master was still dangerous. "This one is fine," Daehyun said simply. The laughter in the arena grew louder. The Velkari thought this was hilarious. The human had chosen the worst weapon available. Some aliens recorded the moment on their devices, already planning to share the story of the foolish human who brought wood to an energy weapon fight. Kreltos's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Very well. Your opponent will be Shalkir, one of our warriors. Don't worry, he'll try not to hurt you too badly." A Velkari warrior entered the arena from the opposite side. Shalkir was huge, nearly 8 feet tall with 4 powerful arms. His natural armor gleamed under the lights. He carried no weapons because he didn't need any. His fists could crush metal. Jiwoo, another human delegate and a xenobiologist, leaned forward in the viewing area. She activated a secure communication link to Daehyun's ear device. "Are you sure about this? Their armor is incredibly tough. That wooden sword won't even scratch it." Daehyun rolled his shoulders, loosening up. He held the wooden sword in a basic guard position, the way his masters had taught him decades ago. "I know," he said quietly. "That's not what I'm aiming for." The arena fell silent. The referee, a neutral alien species, raised one appendage. "Combat begins when I lower my hand. Fight until submission or incapacitation. Lethal force is discouraged. Medical teams are standing by." Ambassador Haewon gripped the armrest of her seat. This was either going to be a disaster or something incredible. She couldn't tell which. Shalkir looked at the human with all of his compound eyes. He saw a small creature, barely 6 feet tall, holding a stick of wood. This would be over in seconds. He would grab the human, shake him a little, and accept the submission. Easy. Daehyun breathed slowly, centering himself. He had fought thousands of matches in his life. He had trained in dojos across Earth, learning from masters who traced their lineage back hundreds of years. He understood combat in his bones, in his blood, in every fiber of his being. The weapon didn't make the warrior. The warrior made the weapon. The referee's hand dropped. Shalkir charged forward with all 4 arms extended, confident and powerful. Daehyun's eyes narrowed. He didn't retreat. He didn't panic. He moved forward to meet the charge, wooden sword ready. The real fight was about to begin. Shalkir's forearms came at Daehyun like a storm. The Velkari warrior was fast, much faster than his size suggested. His shell-covered fists could break bones with a single hit. The crowd leaned forward, expecting to see the human get crushed immediately. But Daehyun wasn't there anymore. He had moved to the side, slipping past Shalkir's reaching arms like water flowing around a rock. His feet made no sound on the arena floor. Years of training had taught him how to move efficiently, wasting no energy, making no unnecessary motions. Shalkir stumbled slightly, surprised that he had hit nothing but air. He turned quickly, bringing 2 arms up in a guard position while the other 2 prepared to strike. This human was quicker than expected, but it didn't matter. One solid hit and it would be over. Daehyun circled slowly, the wooden sword held in a relaxed position. His eyes tracked every movement Shalkir made. He was studying his opponent, looking for patterns, for weaknesses. Jiwoo's voice came through his earpiece again. "Their joints are the weak spots, between the armor plates, and their antennae. Those are sensory organs. They use them for balance and spatial awareness." "Understood," Daehyun murmured, too quiet for anyone else to hear. Shalkir attacked again, this time more carefully. He used all 4 arms in a coordinated assault, trying to overwhelm the human with multiple angles of attack. It was a standard Velkari technique. Use superior numbers of limbs to create an unbeatable offense. Against most opponents, it worked perfectly, but Daehyun had trained against multiple opponents his entire life. On Earth, martial artists practice fighting 2, 3, even 4 people at once. The principle was the same. Never be where the attacks are. Always move to where they aren't. He ducked under one swing, stepped inside the range of another, and twisted away from a third. The wooden sword moved almost casually, tapping against Shalkir's extended arm right at the joint where the armor plates met. Crack. The sound was small, but the effect was immediate. Shalkir jerked his arm back with a roar of pain. The joint wasn't broken, but the impact had hit a nerve cluster. Pain signals shot through his nervous system. The crowd fell silent. What had just happened? Shalkir looked at his arm in disbelief. The human had actually hurt him. With a wooden stick. That shouldn't be possible. His armor was designed to stop plasma weapons, energy blades, projectiles. A piece of wood shouldn't even register. But the human hadn't tried to break through the armor. He had hit the one spot where there was no armor. Dae-hyun didn't celebrate or gloat. He just reset his stance, waiting for the next exchange. His face showed complete focus, the kind of concentration that comes from years of meditation and training. Ambassador Hai-wan watched with wide eyes. Is he actually winning? She whispered to Ji-woo. I think he's fighting smart, Ji-woo replied. He's not trying to be stronger. He's being precise. Shalkir was angry now. The pain in his joint throbbed, and worse than the pain was the humiliation. He was being hurt by someone half his size with a training weapon. The other Valkyrie in the crowd were watching. He had to end this quickly. He charged again, but this time he was emotional, not tactical. His attacks became wilder, more aggressive, less controlled. He wanted to crush this annoying human and prove his superiority. Dae-hyun saw the change immediately. An angry fighter is a sloppy fighter. His masters had taught him that lesson many times. Emotion clouds judgment. Rage makes you predictable. As Shalkir's fist came down in a powerful overhead strike, Dae-hyun stepped to the outside angle and brought the wooden sword up in a sharp arc. The tip caught Shalkir's antenna, the sensitive sensory organ that extended from his head. The effect was dramatic. Shalkir's compound eyes lost focus. His balance wavered. The antenna wasn't just for show. It was crucial to how Valkyrie warriors perceived their environment and maintained equilibrium. Dae-hyun pressed his advantage. The wooden sword became a blur of motion, striking with a speed that shocked the alien spectators. Each hit targeted the same vulnerable points: joints, sensory organs, the gaps between armor plates. He used techniques from multiple Earth martial arts. A strike from Korean swordwork. A deflection from Japanese kendo. A footwork pattern from Filipino martial arts. Humans had developed fighting styles on every continent for thousands of years, and Dae-hyun had studied them all. The Valkyrie doctrine of overwhelming force had no answer for this approach. They were used to enemies who tried to match their strength. Dae-hyun wasn't doing that. He was using their own size and power against them, redirecting their momentum, exploiting their weak points. Shalkir managed to land a glancing blow on Dae-hyun's ribs. Even a glancing hit from a Valkyrie was painful. Dae-hyun felt something crack, maybe a rib, but he didn't stop moving. Pain was just information. His masters had taught him to acknowledge it and continue anyway. He rolled with the impact, using the momentum to create distance, then closed again before Shalkir could recover. The wooden sword struck the same damaged joint twice more in rapid succession. Shalkir roared in genuine pain now. His arm was barely functional. The nerve damage was spreading. He tried to grab Dae-hyun with his other 3 arms, attempting to use his superior strength in a grapple. For a moment, he succeeded. 2 of his arms caught the human, and Shalkir began to squeeze. If he could just hold on, he could crush the human's bones. This was what Valkyrie warriors did best, grappling with overwhelming strength. The crowd of Valkyrie spectators cheered. This was more like it. This was how combat should work, but Dae-hyun didn't panic. He had trained in grappling arts too. Every complete martial artist understood that fighting happened at all ranges, with weapons, with fists, and in close grappling. He shifted the wooden sword in his grip, jamming the end into the joint of the arm holding him. Not stabbing, the wood was too dull for that, but using it as a lever, creating pressure on the joint at an unnatural angle. Shalkir's grip loosened reflexively as pain shot through his arm. Dae-hyun twisted free with a movement that was part technique, part desperation, and completely effective. As he spun away, his wooden sword came around in a powerful horizontal strike. The target wasn't armor or joints this time. It was the other antenna, the one that controlled Shalkir's remaining balance and coordination. The wooden sword connected with a solid crack. Shalkir's world tilted. His sensory input scrambled. He couldn't tell up from down. His forearms windmilled uselessly as he tried. To stay on his feet, he couldn't. The massive Valkyrie warrior crashed to the arena floor with a thunderous impact that echoed through the whole space. The arena was completely silent. Shalkir tried to rise. His arms pushed against the floor, but his balance was destroyed. He managed to get halfway up before collapsing again. The damaged antennae had left him unable to coordinate his movements properly. Daehyun stood over him, wooden sword still in guard position, ready to continue if needed. His breathing was heavy. Sweat ran down his face. His ribs hurt where he'd been hit. But he was still standing. Shalkir made a gesture with one of his functional hands, a specific movement that meant submission in Velkari culture. The referee, who had been watching in shock, finally remembered to make the call. Combat ends. The human is victorious. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The impossible had just happened. A human with a wooden practice sword had defeated a Velkari warrior. Then the arena erupted in noise, some species cheering, some arguing, some simply unable to believe what they had seen. Commander Kreltos stood in his viewing box, his forearms rigid, his compound eyes fixed on the arena floor. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human was supposed to be humiliated. Instead, one of his warriors had been beaten. Ambassador Haewon let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Jiwoo was recording everything on her device, her hands shaking slightly. Daehyun helped Shalkir to his feet. The Velkari warrior looked at the human with new eyes that now held respect instead of contempt. You fight strangely, Shalkir said through his translator. But effectively, I underestimated you. Daehyun bowed, a human gesture of respect. You fought with honor. Thank you for the match. As medical personnel rushed to check on both fighters, Daehyun walked back toward the human viewing area. The wooden sword was still in his hand, unmarked and simple. He had just proven something important. Humans might be small, might seem weak, but they had spent thousands of years learning how to win fights against stronger opponents. That made them dangerous. Commander Kreltos descended from his viewing platform with heavy steps. Each footfall echoed in the now quiet arena. His forearms were held stiffly at his sides, a Velkari sign of barely controlled anger. The crowd watched nervously. Everyone knew what this meant. The commander had been humiliated. His plan to embarrass the humans had backfired completely. Shalkir, a trained Velkari warrior, had lost to a human carrying a wooden stick. The story would spread across the station within hours, maybe across the galaxy within days. Daehyun had reached the edge of the arena when Kreltos's voice boomed out. Stop! The entire arena fell silent again. Daehyun turned slowly, the wooden sword still held loosely in one hand. He looked tired but alert, his eyes watching the commander carefully. Kreltos walked to the center of the fighting floor. His shell gleamed under the lights. His voice, translated into dozens of languages for the assembled species, carried an edge of challenge. This fight proves nothing. Shalkir is a competent warrior, but he is not our best. If the human truly wishes to prove his species' worth, let him face a real champion. Ambassador Haewon stood up in the viewing area. Commander, that wasn't the agreement. This was supposed to be a simple demonstration, not, let him face Thralvin. The name rippled through the crowd like electricity. Aliens from every species began talking at once. Some sounded excited. Others sounded horrified. Thralvin was legendary. Jiwoo grabbed Daehyun's arm through the holographic link. No, absolutely not. Thralvin has never lost. He's killed opponents from a dozen species. This isn't a demonstration anymore, it's an execution. Daehyun looked at the wooden sword in his hand. It was scratched now from the fight with Shalkir, but still intact. He thought about his masters back on Earth, about the lessons they had taught him, about facing impossible odds with nothing but skill and determination. I accept, he said clearly. What? Jiwoo's voice cracked. Are you insane? Ambassador Haewon was already protesting through official channels, citing diplomatic protocols and safety regulations. The other human delegates looked terrified, but Daehyun wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Kreltos, and the commander was looking back. This had become something more than a fight. It was about respect, about whether humans deserved a place in the galactic community. You gave me this wooden sword thinking it would make me weak, Daehyun said, his voice calm but carrying across the arena. You don't understand what it means to a human warrior. For thousands of years, my people have trained with wooden swords. We use them because they teach perfect technique. A master with a wooden blade is still a master. He raised the sword slightly. You thought you were giving me a disadvantage. But you were actually giving me exactly what I trained my whole life to use. That's your mistake, not mine. Kreltos's mandibles clicked, the Velkari equivalent of a cold laugh. Brave words. Let's see if you can back them up. Bring Thralvin! The crowd's noise grew louder. Many aliens were placing bets now. The odds were heavily against the human. Some species representatives were already preparing to leave, not wanting to watch what they expected would be a quick and brutal death. A door opened on the far side of the arena. The crowd fell silent again, this time with anticipation and a hint of fear. Thralvin entered. He was enormous, even by Velkari standards. Nearly 9 feet tall, his shell was covered in battle scars, marks from plasma burns, blade cuts, and impact weapons. Each scar represented a fight he had won. His forearms were thick with muscle under the natural armor. His compound eyes gleamed with intelligence and focus. Unlike Shalkir, Thralvin carried weapons. 2 plasma blades hummed in his lower arms, glowing with blue-white energy. They could cut through steel like paper and cauterize wounds instantly. One touch would kill a human. Daehyun watched the champion approach. He felt his heartbeat quicken but kept his breathing steady. Fear was natural. Panic was the enemy. His masters had taught him the difference. "You're going to die," Jiwoo said through the earpiece, her voice thick with emotion. "Please just surrender. There's no shame in—" "There is shame," Daehyun interrupted gently. "Not in losing. Shame in not trying. Humans have always been the underdogs in our own history. We've had to fight bigger, stronger enemies just to survive. That's why we got good at it." Thralvin reached the center of the arena and looked down at Daehyun. When he spoke, his translator rendered his words with a tone of professional respect, not mockery. "I am Thralvin, champion of the Velkari. I have defeated 47 opponents in ritual combat. I am told you fight well for a human. I will not dishonor you by holding back. Are you ready?" Daehyun bowed, a gesture from Earth's martial traditions. "I'm ready." Medical drones positioned themselves around the arena. The energy shields reinforced, bright enough that everyone had to squint. The referee looked nervous but raised its appendage anyway. "This is an official challenge match. Combat continues until submission, death, or incapacitation. May both warriors fight with honor." In the human viewing area, Ambassador Hei Wan had her hands clenched so tight her knuckles were white. Other delegates couldn't watch. Jiwoo was recording everything but could barely keep the device steady. Daehyun rolled his shoulders one last time, loosening the muscles. He held the wooden sword in a middle guard position, balanced and ready. His mind cleared of everything except the present moment. This was what all his training had been for. Thralvin shifted into a fighting stance that was completely different from Shalkir's aggressive posture. This was controlled, efficient, professional. The plasma blades hummed softly. The referee's appendage dropped. Thralvin didn't charge. He moved forward carefully, testing Daehyun's reactions. The plasma blade in his lower right arm made a quick slash. Not trying to hit, just measuring distance and speed. Daehyun slipped back, staying just out of range. The heat from the plasma was intense. He could feel it on his face from 3 feet away. If any part of him touched those blades, he would die. They circled each other slowly. The crowd was completely silent now, watching every movement. This was different from the fight with Shalkir. This was a chess match between masters. Thralvin attacked with a combination, 2 strikes from different angles, designed to limit Daehyun's escape routes. The human twisted between them, the wooden sword deflecting one plasma blade slightly off course. For a split second, the weapons touched, wood against pure energy. The wood didn't burn. The contact was too brief, too glancing. But everyone saw it. A human with a wooden sword had parried a plasma blade. The crowd gasped. Even Kreltos leaned forward, his anger temporarily replaced by fascination. Daehyun felt the heat singe his clothes. That had been close, too close. He couldn't block directly. The plasma would slice through the wood eventually. He could only deflect at angles, redirecting rather than stopping. Thralvin pressed the attack. He was faster than Shalkir, more precise. His forearms worked in perfect coordination, creating a web of plasma death that seemed impossible to escape. But Daehyun had trained against multiple opponents his entire life. His feet moved in patterns learned from masters who traced their lineage back centuries. He wasn't thinking anymore. His body moved from pure muscle memory and instinct. A plasma blade came within inches of his neck. Another scorched past his leg. The wooden sword was everywhere at once, tapping blades aside, redirecting strikes, buying microseconds of survival. Then Thralvin caught him. A plasma blade sliced across Daehyun's shoulder, cutting through cloth and burning skin. The pain was immediate and intense. Daehyun staggered, his grip on the wooden sword momentarily weakening. Blood and burn marked his shoulder. The crowd thought it was over, but Daehyun didn't fall. The pain cleared his mind instead of clouding it. He remembered his master's words. Pain is just information. Accept it, continue. He shifted his stance completely, from defensive to aggressive, from evasive to direct. The wooden sword struck out at Thralvin's weapon arm, targeting the joint with surgical precision. The Valkyrie champion pulled back, surprised. The human was wounded but attacking. Daehyun pressed forward, his strikes coming faster now. He used techniques from different martial arts, changing styles mid-fight. The wooden sword became a blur. He wasn't aiming for Thralvin's armor or trying to match strength against strength. He aimed for the antennae, for the joints, for the weak points that every fighter has no matter how strong. Thralvin defended skillfully, his plasma blades creating a barrier of energy. But for the first time in his career, he was being pushed back. This small human with a piece of wood was forcing him to give ground. The champion's eyes showed something new, not contempt, not amusement, respect. Blood dripped from Daehyun's burned shoulder, leaving small dark spots on the arena floor. The pain was constant now, a fire that spread through his entire arm, but he couldn't stop to think about it. Stopping meant death. Thralvin circled him carefully, those plasma blades humming their deadly song. The champion's compound eyes tracked every movement, looking for patterns, searching for weakness. He had fought dozens of species, mastered countless combat styles, but this human fought unlike anything he had encountered before. The attacks came again, and this time they were faster, more aggressive. Thralvin was testing Daehyun's limits, seeing how the injury affected his speed and reaction time. The plasma blades wove a web of death, high, low, from the side, from multiple angles at once. Daehyun's wooden sword moved on instinct. His conscious mind had stopped directing his body. Instead, years of training took over. Muscle memory from 10,000 hours of practice guided every movement. His feet shifted in patterns older than any living human, techniques passed down through generations of masters. The wooden sword tapped a plasma blade, redirecting it by inches. Another deflection, another. The heat was incredible. The air around the plasma weapon shimmered. Daehyun's clothes were scorched in multiple places now. His face felt sunburned from the proximity to so much energy, but he was still alive, still fighting. In the viewing area, Jiwoo watched through her fingers. How is he doing that? She whispered. The physics alone should be impossible. Wood against plasma. He's not blocking, another human delegate said, leaning forward intently. Look closely. He's not stopping the blades. He's redirecting them, just barely touching and guiding them past him. Ambassador Haewon understood suddenly. It's like water flowing around rocks. He's not fighting force with force. He's just moving it aside. On the arena floor, Thralvin was thinking the same thing. This human's technique was extraordinary. Every species the champion had fought before tried to match him with strength or speed or technology. This human was doing something different entirely. He was being efficient. Thralvin increased his attack speed again, pushing harder. His forearms worked in perfect synchronization, creating combinations that had defeated the strongest warriors in known space. Surely no one could keep up with this pace, but Daehyun did. His breathing was ragged now, his movements showing fatigue, but he didn't slow down. The wooden sword continued its dance, always in the right place at the right time. Then Daehyun made his move. As Thralvin's upper left arm extended in a thrust, Daehyun didn't retreat. He stepped inside the attack, closer to the champion's body where the longer arms had less leverage. The wooden sword came up in a sharp strike targeting the joint of Thralvin's weapon arm. The impact was precise and powerful. Thralvin's grip on that plasma blade wavered for just a fraction of a second. It was enough. The blade dipped slightly and Daehyun rolled past him, creating distance again before the other arms could respond. The crowd erupted in noise. Many aliens stood up, unable to believe what they were seeing. A human was matching the champion. More than matching, he was landing hits. Thralvin felt the ache in his joint and reassessed his opponent completely. This wasn't just luck or surprising technique anymore. This human was genuinely dangerous. The wooden sword might not cut through armor, but it didn't need to. Every strike targeted nerves, tendons, the mechanical weak points of the Valkyrie body. You have studied our physiology, Thralvin said, his translated voice carrying surprise. I studied combat, Daehyun replied between breaths. Real combat isn't about being stronger. It's about being smarter. Humans learned that lesson thousands of years ago. They engaged again. This time, Thralvin changed tactics. If the human was too good at defense and counter-striking, then he needed to be overwhelmed completely. The champion unleashed his full speed and power, holding nothing back. It was like fighting a hurricane made of blades and energy. Daehyun's wooden sword moved so fast it blurred. His feet barely touched the ground as he flowed from one position to another. But Thralvin was relentless. One of the plasma blades grazed Daehyun's ribs, leaving another burn. Daehyun gasped in pain but kept moving. His body was telling him to stop, to give up, to submit. But his mind overruled it. His masters had taught him to push past limits, to find strength when the body said there was none left. He remembered training sessions that lasted hours, where his arms felt like lead weights but his teacher demanded one more strike, one more sequence, one more perfect form. The body gives up before the spirit, his master had said. A true warrior knows the difference. Daehyun switched styles again mid-combat. From the flowing movements of one art to the sharp, angular strikes of another, he became unpredictable. Thralvin, who had been starting to read his patterns, found himself suddenly facing a completely different fighter. The wooden sword struck Thralvin's lower right arm joint, then the upper left, then the same antenna that Daehyun had targeted on Shalkir. Each strike was delivered with absolute precision, and the full force of Daehyun's body weight behind it. Thralvin's balance wavered. Not much, but enough that Daehyun saw it. The antenna damage was affecting the champion's spatial awareness. But Thralvin was a champion for a reason. He adapted instantly, compensating for the damaged antenna by relying more on his visual input. His plasma blades carved through the air in a defensive pattern, forcing Daehyun back. They were both breathing hard now, both injured. Both pushed to their limits. The crowd was in chaos. Half the aliens were cheering. The other half were arguing about what they were witnessing. Bets were being frantically changed. This fight wasn't going the way anyone had predicted. Commander Kreltos watched with an expression that was hard to read. Was that anger? Respect? Fear? Perhaps all three. Daehyun's vision was starting to blur slightly from exhaustion and pain. His injured shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. His ribs ached. The burns felt like they were still on fire. But he had been here before in training, pushed to absolute exhaustion and then told to continue. One more. His master's voice echoed in his memory. Always one more. That's what separates victory from defeat. Thralvin could see the human was tiring. Good. He was tired too, his joints aching from the repeated strikes to his weak points, his antenna sending confused signals to his brain. But he had more mass, more strength, more endurance. Time was on his side. He pressed the attack again, using all four arms in a coordinated assault designed to drain whatever energy the human had left. The plasma blades came from every direction, forcing Daehyun to defend constantly, giving him no chance to counterattack. It was working. Daehyun's movements were getting slower, his reactions just a hair less perfect. A plasma blade came close to his head, so close he felt the heat singe his hair. Another nearly took his leg. The end was coming. Everyone could see it. The human had fought bravely, had exceeded all expectations, but biology had limits. He couldn't maintain this pace forever. Daehyun knew it too. He could feel his body starting to fail. His muscles screamed for rest. His lungs burned with each breath. The wooden sword felt heavier with every passing second. He had maybe one more real attack left in him. One chance. If he missed, if he failed, it was over. So he did what his masters had taught him. He stopped thinking about winning or losing. He stopped thinking about the pain or the exhaustion. He stopped thinking entirely. He just moved. Thralvin saw the human's stance shift slightly. Some instinct warned him. The battle sense that kept champions alive. He brought all his defenses up, plasma blades creating a wall of energy. But Daehyun wasn't where Thralvin expected. He had dropped low, almost to the ground, moving under the champion's defenses in a way that seemed to defy human flexibility. The wooden sword came up in a rising strike, targeting the one antenna that remained undamaged. Thralvin tried to pull back, but the human was already inside his guard. The wooden sword connected with a solid crack that echoed through the arena. The champion's world tilted violently. Both antennae damaged now, his balance completely gone. His compound eyes couldn't make sense of which way was up. His forearms, so coordinated before, moved independently and uselessly. Thralvin fell, not gracefully, not with control. He crashed to the arena floor like a toppled tree, his massive body hitting with an impact that shook the ground. Dae-hyun stood over him, wooden sword raised for one final strike if needed. His body swayed. His vision was narrowing, but he was standing. Thralvin tried to rise. His arms pushed against the floor, but his damaged balance system betrayed him. He fell again, then again. Slowly, with visible effort, the champion raised one arm in the gesture of submission. The arena exploded with noise. For 5 full seconds, nobody in the arena moved. They just stared at the impossible scene before them. The undefeated champion of the Velkari Empire lay on the ground, unable to rise. Standing over him was a human, small and wounded, holding nothing but a wooden practice sword. Then the silence shattered. Half the arena erupted in cheers. Aliens from dozens of species stood and made their various gestures of celebration and respect. The other half sat in stunned disbelief, unable to process what they had witnessed. This wasn't supposed to be possible. The referee rushed forward, checking on both fighters. Medical drones swarmed around them, scanning for serious injuries. Dae-hyun swayed on his feet, the wooden sword still held loosely in his hand. Adrenaline was the only thing keeping him standing now. In the human viewing area, Jiwoo was crying and laughing at the same time. Ambassador Haewon had her hands over her mouth, eyes wide. The other delegates were either cheering or sitting in shock. None of them had truly believed it could happen. He did it, Jiwoo whispered. He actually did it. On the arena floor, Commander Kreltos descended the steps slowly. His forearms were held in a neutral position now, the anger from before completely gone. His expression, as much as humans could read Velkari expressions, showed something complex, a mixture of emotions that didn't have simple names. He approached Dae-hyun and stopped a respectful distance away. The entire arena watched this interaction, knowing it meant something important. Human, Kreltos said, his translator rendering his voice with careful formality. I underestimated your species. More importantly, I underestimated you. I gave you a weapon meant to ensure your defeat. You turned it into an instrument of victory. Dae-hyun bowed, a gesture from Earth's martial traditions, though the movement made his injured shoulder scream in pain. Commander, you taught me something today too. You showed me that honor exists in many forms, across many species. Thank you for the opportunity to prove what humans can do. Kreltos performed the Velkari warrior salute, a complex movement involving all 4 arms that signified respect between equals. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone watching. The commander of the Velkari Empire was acknowledging a human as an equal warrior. Your fighting style, Kreltos continued. I have never seen anything like it. You move like water but strike like stone. You appear weak but fight with the strength of perfect technique. How is this possible? Dae-hyun looked at the wooden sword in his hand. It was battered now, scarred from contact with plasma blades, but still whole. Humans have spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We developed hundreds of martial arts across our whole world. We had to because we've always been fighting opponents stronger than us. Stronger animals, stronger enemies, harsher environments. We learned that technique beats strength, that precision beats power, that a calm mind beats an emotional one. He raised the wooden sword slightly. This weapon? On Earth, masters use these to train students. Not because wood is strong, but because it teaches perfect form. The greatest swordsman in human history trained with wooden swords before ever touching steel. When you gave this to me, you thought it was a joke, but you actually gave me exactly what I've trained with my entire life. A ripple of understanding passed through the assembled aliens. They had tried to handicap the human, but instead they had given him his preferred weapon. Medical personnel were treating both fighters now. Thralvin had managed to sit up, though his balance was still affected. A medical drone was explaining that his antennae would heal but needed time and treatment. The champion looked up at Dae-hyun with respect in his compound eyes. You fought with great skill, human. I have defeated warriors from 47 species before today. None of them fought like you. None of them beat me. He paused. I am not ashamed to lose to such a warrior. You have taught me that there are fighting styles in this galaxy I have not yet encountered. And you taught me, Dae-hyun replied, wincing as a medical drone treated his burns, that the Velkari are worthy opponents. Your strength is impressive. Your skill is real. I was just lucky to find your weaknesses before you found all of mine. Thralvin made a clicking sound that the translator rendered as laughter. Luck? No, that was not luck. That was a lifetime of training and perfect execution. That was mastery. He extended one arm. I would be honored to learn from you if you would teach me. Daehyun shook the offered hand, a gesture that bridged two completely different cultures. I would be honored. The crowd's noise had settled into excited conversation now. Representatives from various species were already approaching the human delegation, introducing themselves, asking questions. The small species that had been ignored or dismissed before were particularly interested. If humans could defeat Velkhari warriors, what did that mean for them? Over the next hour, as medical treatment continued and the arena slowly cleared, something significant happened. The other species began to look at humans differently. They had arrived as newcomers, untested and seemingly weak. They were leaving as proven warriors, worthy of respect. Ambassador Haewon found herself in unexpected conversations about trade agreements and diplomatic partnerships. Species that had been cool before were now warm and welcoming. The fight had changed everything. Jiwoo approached Daehyun as medical drones finished treating his injuries. You're insane, she said, but she was smiling. You know that, right? Completely insane. Probably, Daehyun admitted. But it worked. It did more than work. You changed how the galaxy sees us. One fight and suddenly we're not just newcomers anymore. We're dangerous. Daehyun looked thoughtful. Not dangerous, capable. There's a difference. I didn't want to scare them. I wanted to show them that humans deserve respect, that we've earned our place through hard work and dedication. The wooden sword lay on a medical table nearby. Commander Kreltos approached it and picked it up carefully, examining the scarred wood. What will you do with this weapon? He asked. Keep it, Daehyun said immediately. As a reminder. A reminder of what? That the weapon doesn't make the warrior. The warrior makes the weapon. That lesson is worth more than any trophy. Kreltos nodded slowly. A wise philosophy. I would like to request something, human Daehyun. This wooden sword, would you permit it to be displayed here in our Hall of Notable Conflicts, as a reminder to all species of what happened here today? Daehyun considered, then shook his head. Not this one, Commander. This one has personal meaning. But I'll make you a proper wooden sword, crafted correctly according to Earth traditions. It will be a gift from humanity to the Velkhari, a symbol of mutual respect. That would be acceptable, more than acceptable. News of the fight spread through the galactic networks faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every major species knew about it. The human who defeated the Velkhari champion with a wooden sword. The story was told and retold, gaining details and drama with each telling. But the core truth remained. A human, given a weapon meant to ensure his defeat, had turned it into an instrument of victory through sheer skill and determination. 3 months later, Daehyun returned to the station with a beautifully crafted wooden sword. It was made from oak, properly balanced and shaped according to techniques passed down through generations of human masters. He presented it to Commander Kreltos in a formal ceremony. The sword was placed in the Hall of Notable Conflicts with a plaque that read, Given by humanity to the Velkhari Empire. A reminder that warriors are defined not by their weapons but by their spirit, skill, and determination. The smallest fighter, with the simplest tool, can achieve victory through perfect technique and unwavering resolve. Below that, in smaller text, humans may not be the strongest species in the galaxy, but they are survivors who learn to win against stronger opponents. That makes them valuable allies and formidable enemies. Requests for training began arriving from multiple species. They wanted to learn these human martial arts, these techniques that turn disadvantage into advantage. Daehyun started teaching, and other martial artists from Earth soon joined him. A new school was founded on Velthar Prime, dedicated to sharing human combat philosophy with the galaxy. Commander Kreltos himself became a student, along with several other Velkhari warriors. They learned that strength alone wasn't enough, that technique and strategy mattered just as much. Some of them struggled with this concept at first. Their entire culture was built on physical dominance. But slowly they began to understand. Thralvin recovered fully and requested a rematch. Daehyun accepted, but this time they both used wooden practice swords. The fight lasted much longer, and while Thralvin still lost, the margin was much smaller. The champion was learning. In another year, Thralvin said after the match, I might defeat you. You might, Daehyun agreed, and that would be wonderful. It means you've learned what I have to teach. Back on Earth, the story of Daehyun's fight became legendary. Children practiced with wooden swords, dreaming of representing humanity in the stars. Martial arts schools saw a surge in students. The old ways, which some had called outdated in an age of advanced technology, were suddenly respected again. Because Daehyun had proven something important. The fundamentals matter. Technique matters. Training matters. The tools might change, but the principles remain the same. Years later, when